Hi pals, it's me, Artie, they them pronouns only. My video this week is talking about what a fucking virus can do to literally anybody. My video quality is terrible right now, but we're gonna deal with it because I don't want to open that blind. I really don't. I really fucking don't. I don't. You can see enough. It's fine. And this is what I've been sounding like for the last 4 weeks. 4 weeks. I am trying to improve my Australian accent because whilst it was somewhat a compliment that my friend said I did sound like a real Australian, she said that I sounded like a boomer from Queensland. So, Queensland, I don't know. Cool, I sound like a real Australian. I don't sound like an Australian who would look like me. I have been having a shit time since I caught a virus, like about 4 weeks ago-ish, maybe a little bit longer now. It's just still so shite. I think I caught this virus when I had to go into hospital for my gastroscopy, and I was around a bunch of staff who did not have masks on, and I was not able to wear a mask because I was having a camera shoved up my nose. About 4 days after that is when I got my first inkling of symptoms that very much could have gone like either way. It was like, oh, this could just be a mild irritant that's going on right now, or it could be like some hay fever, because I think this was one of the small moments where our weather was looking a little bit nicer for like 2.5 seconds, because so far in England it's been mostly rain. Just continual like rain with the odd like few days of nicer weather. This weekend just gone is a great example. Like 2 to 3 days really hot summer weather. Today it's been overcast and literally raining. Like I had sort of like a weird, I can't even remember exactly how it felt, but it was like a weird croaky but not croaky feeling in my throat. I didn't sound different, but there was something that felt off in my throat. Or as well, the other thing I thought it could have been was like post-exertional malaise. At times I've had that come on for like a day or two where it feels like a cold. So I was like, oh, maybe it's that. It wasn't, bitch. So I basically just spent the whole day kind of like treating it like a cold just in case, because even if it's not a cold, what's some paracetamol and some cough drops gonna do, really, innit? I was just trying to keep my voice box, all of my throat lubricated and all that, because yeah, it was just feeling a little bit weird, feeling a little bit strained. Then Saturday I could not speak. I was meant to go to have a table at Arty Farty events market, and I had to send an email literally on the day to say sorry, I can't make it. Obviously I didn't get the money back for the table. I don't expect to, but like I just felt like shit. For one, I didn't want to spread it to anybody. Didn't want to spread it round. I find that at markets I can't really wear a mask for a few reasons. Just getting darker now. Hello. I find people avoid me. People struggle to hear me. I already struggle to hear other people, so, and I get quite a lot of sensory overwhelm at markets already as well. I'm not really able to wear a mask for sensory related reasons too. And as well, like I wear masks for travelling, so obviously I have to wear it on the train and wear it back, and all that sort of thing. But I just wasn't sure I'd even be able to eat, and I didn't sleep well that night because my throat started to hurt. So I was like, just felt like shit because I hadn't slept. I literally couldn't speak because it hurt, felt like fucking needles and razor blades in my throat. And like I need to be able to speak all day and like can't fucking speak. if you've got a sore throat. So yeah, I cancelled that, which did really suck, but I would rather not go when I feel like that, because as well, the Arty Farty events are in London. The one I was going to go to was in Deptford, so the travel is like an hour to 2 hours, and I just felt really weak as well. I didn't think I'd be able to take my bags, honestly. And yeah, like initially I sort of felt okay for the first couple of days. I just had obviously this really sore throat, but like for that weekend, seeing as I couldn't go and do things I was gonna go do, that's when I painted these pieces. I literally just spent basically the whole weekend of that first weekend being sick binge watching TV shows. I think I was watching Sex Education, Heartstopper, Heartbreak High when that came out. Yeah, I was just like binge watching TV shows and painting these pieces. I didn't want to go and do anything that was too physically demanding. It then became this really horrible cough. It started out as a really horrible dry cough that was kind of irritated like at literally everything. I couldn't breathe without starting to cough, it felt like. And yeah, it was just so dry, so it just really hurt. It just hurt all my throat, all my chest, like obviously my back and stuff from the amount of coughing I was doing. And it wasn't just like a quick I'm sick. It was coughing fits, but it was horrible. Yeah, I just felt like every single breath I took was irritating or tickling, and that then turned into just massive amounts of mucus. I'm still struggling with the mucus. Let's just put it that way. My nose and my sinuses, disgusting. My ears, I didn't write this down, I actually forgot about this, but like my ears and hearing went kind of weird. It definitely very much felt like sometimes when you talk with your hands over your ears, all of the vibrations of my voice were different because of all this mucus. Everything just sounded so weird. I don't think I even sounded that croaky because it was mostly just in my own head, literally, that because of my sinuses were so fucked up with mucus, I just couldn't hear anything normally, so everything sounded fucked. So like, yeah, so much mucus, phlegm. Breathing alone wasn't so much a trigger for coughing anymore, but I would have like, this is like really gross, okay, and I still have this going on, but like I would occasionally feel bits of mucus move mid breathing that would then feel like I couldn't breathe and I would have to cough. And like a lot of the times mid that coughing, it would happen again, so then the coughing would continue and be worse. Like it's somewhere like in this sort of like vicinity that I would just feel like, I don't know, I can't even explain it. It's sort of just like that was it. I was coughing, hacking and coughing up gross shit. And then yeah, like I said, I wasn't sleeping well at night. Still I'm not. Still not sleeping well. Depends on the day, obviously, but like generally my sleeping pattern's kind of fucked. I was struggling to sleep because my throat would hurt so much I'd wake up in the night and then not be able to get to sleep. The coughing would keep me awake or wake me up. The mucus doing that thing would wake me up because I felt like I wasn't breathing, and I'd be sucking on my menthol throat sweets throughout the day, but mostly in the evening, and like literally going to bed I would have one in my mouth just because it would hurt my throat so much in the morning and in the night that I was waking up so much. I was hoping that maybe that would help, or like it would sometimes help make the coughing less bad if I was sucking on one of these menthol throat sweets, because obviously it was like lubricating my throat and stuff, but also the menthol helped me be able to breathe through my nose a bit better. Yeah, they would just kind of soothe all of the places that were getting irritated right before going to bed. I also wasn't eating a lot. I felt kind of nauseous, but also I was drinking so much water for my throat, or just drinking so much. The coughing kind of made me feel quite sick. I also was feeling just so tired that I felt kind of sick. And yeah, I was drinking a lot of water, a lot of squash, a lot of the only herbal tea that I like. And then sometimes I'd have like a tea or a coffee here and there because the warm liquid felt nice in the mornings on my like particularly sore throat. So like I was just not hungry. Most food I usually liked, I was then like put off of. Like, I've only just started eating things like salmon again because, I don't know, man, the thought of eating fish when you feel like shit, just, I can give cod a pass for some reason. Fish fingers, fish and chips, slay. So I had that a couple of times, but also I couldn't eat things like that for the first week or so because it all just hurt my throat. I think I was eating things like, I can't remember what they're called, but Weetabix minis, I think, with the chocolate chips in because they get really soft. Special K. I'm still on a bit of a hyperfixation with Special K again at the moment. Porridge, and my mum like made from scratch rice pudding because there's nowhere does dairy-free rice pudding, and if they do it sucks, so we make it at home instead in large batches. And that's basically all my food looked like. Mashed potato, or like jacket potato with just some cheese on. Too much flavour made me feel unwell too. But like, yeah, literally mushy food, plain food, and even then I just wasn't down. I just didn't really want to eat a lot of stuff. So that was basically my food for the first few weeks. I did test for COVID. It never showed that I was positive, but I know that they are not super reliable, are like rapid tests, but they don't do PCRs anymore, even for clinically vulnerable like myself, unless I think you're in hospital and have already given a positive COVID test, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, the first couple of weeks I cancelled loads of things, especially anything in person, but also if my day looked a bit too full, I cancelled a few of those other virtual things. But yeah, I spent those first 2 weeks at home, basically cancelled everything possible. If I couldn't cancel it, then it was, I'd wear a mask and do all of my usual stuff that I do to try and prevent spreading it to people. Because, yeah, some of them were like important healthcare appointments that I've been waiting fucking ages for, and if I tried to rebook, I'm sure I would have had so many problems. I couldn't do things like therapy because that's like an hour of sitting and talking. Initially, I couldn't talk because my throat and voice were fucked. I then couldn't talk because of the coughing. It was so annoying. I was feeling and am still feeling quite wheezy at times, like more than I was before. So at times I did sit with my air purifier literally just blowing in my face in case there was maybe some kind of like irritant in the air, because I know that I can get a bit more hay fevery, I guess. There's a lot of dust, or someone's done a bit of cleaning, so there's a lot more dust in the air from cleaning. Or like I said, if it was like a nicer day, could have been loads of bloody pollen. So yeah, it did actually help somewhat. So I did use that for a few days at least. So yeah, I do think that maybe like some dust and pollen was irritating at times. I usually use throat numbing sprays when I've got like throat related illnesses, but they didn't really help a lot, so I did give up on those for this one. Just kept taking paracetamol. Sometimes I was taking cocodamol instead, so sometimes my throat just hurt so fucking badly that nothing was touching it, and I was having other pain elsewhere from the coughing. I don't think I necessarily pulled a muscle. I definitely did slip a rib at one point, which was so painful for a few days. And also I still wasn't really sleeping very well, so the cocodamol should have helped that. The fatigue hit mostly around like week 2 to 3-ish, so like later in week 2. Just like everything I was doing just took all of my energy. It was just fucking gone. Just fucking gone. Like sitting up took so much energy. That was also partly what stopped me from eating at times, was I couldn't sit up to eat. I was so fucking tired. And before I gotten this virus, I was like occasionally going on dog walks, like short slow ones with my mum, but like I could barely walk around the house at this point. Like the smallest amount of exertion caused so much fatigue, and I just felt so like wobbly, weak, lightheaded. I was just so fucking exhausted, and it just limited my ability to do anything, and that is something I'm also still struggling with. I think it's definitely better. It is slowly improving, but it gets in the way of being able to do so many things. But it was really, really bad during, I think, because like I feel like I was actually ill for like 2 weeks. Since then, it's just been like the post-virus vibe of like everything still continuing. This used to happen to me a lot before I was diagnosed with a bunch of my health conditions, that like I would just feel ill for months after just picking up a common cold or like something that everybody was getting, I would just not recover from a lot of those symptoms for a really long time. I remember I had laryngitis when I was like 20 and I was ill for like 3 months. Slowly the coughing got a little bit better, but it's not gone. The mucus is still lingering pretty badly. But yeah, like I said, the fatigue is still hanging over my head, along with the worst, like my POTS like symptoms, dysautonomia kind of symptoms, were worsened as well by this virus. I've been feeling dizzy from like literally the smallest amount of head movements, or even like full body movements. It's really strange. Feeling faint at any exertion. Yeah, just feeling really like wobbly and out of it. And like all of these things have gotten in the way of me doing so many things I need to do, things I want to do. I was trying to take it day by day to just kind of see like, oh, am I starting to feel a bit better, or is it like feeling pretty rough? Because like, yeah, some days were really bad, some days were like a little bit better. I could kind of deal with like sitting in the living room instead of being flat in bed. But then I started to have like early afternoon crashes again, like I used to talk about quite a lot, where like even if I'm not physically or mentally overdoing it, I was just like crashing between like 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. The amount of time sort of varied, but it was pretty rough. The crash would be quite early and would last quite a long time actually during this. Even if I took my afternoon ADHD medication, that did not help at all, because usually that helps with the afternoon crashes. I had to cancel quite a lot of things relatively last minute. I tried to like cancel within people's like policies, which is usually like 48 hours. Occasionally it was sort of like on the day or the day before. Like I had to cancel the chiropractor, I had to cancel my mental health group like one-to-one video call because I just felt so fucking shit. I had to cancel. I mean, my therapist cancelled in the end anyway. She had to go do something else, so but I was going to cancel one of my therapy appointments. Yeah, like I was just cancelling literally everything left, right and fucking centre. And like I said, especially anything in person, but also virtual appointments, which in some ways was actually kind of nice. I don't want to be going to half of these appointments all the time that fill up my fucking week. And then I couldn't go to one of my steps like group ones because I was so ill. And then we had a week off anyway, just because like the coughing was fucking vile. It was loud, it was like constant, it sounded disgusting, and obviously I was bringing up a lot of shit that I really don't want to do outside of my own home, to be honest. I've had sinus problems my whole fucking life, which means I've had a lot of issues with like phlegm and mucus my whole life. It's horrible and it's embarrassing because like it's really uncomfortable, makes you feel like you can't fucking breathe, makes it feel like you can't swallow. I just didn't want anybody else to be around that. I didn't want to put myself around other people like that either, masked or not. To be honest, I don't think I'd even be able to wear a mask in the state I was in. I think I did wear a mask for some of the in-person healthcare appointments I had to go to, and it was really, really, really hard to wear a mask because it was making it harder to breathe. Like I can deal with it usually when I'm well, but it was really hard whilst unwell. However, I was doing it as often as possible for the appointments that I couldn't really cancel. And yeah, like I didn't want to give it to any of the people at my group because God, we're all there for like mental illness. I don't need to contribute to that by making you physically unwell too. It obviously disrupted friends and social life. People were going out doing things. The few nice days we would have here and there, I couldn't even just go out and enjoy them myself. Like a lot of the time I could barely leave my bed, and obviously like it affected my home life too. My mum had to do a lot more for me to take care of me and things like that. I just couldn't get up very often. There were days where I didn't eat much because it required me going downstairs. Oh, as well, like I said, sometimes that was because I was nauseous as well anyway. Sometimes that's because I was just drinking so much liquids that I just wasn't even hungry. But also I was just so exhausted that I just kind of didn't even feel hungry either. So the thought of getting up to eat something was just like, you know what, I'm good. Fuck it, I'm good, bye. And obviously it impacted my work. I haven't made any art since those paintings I did in the first few days. I packed a few orders here and there and posted them, but I've not actually made anything new. And it's been, like 4 to 5 weeks. And that, like, makes me sad at times, because, like, I want to and enjoy doing bits and pieces with my hands, but I also just didn't have the capacity or energy to have to clean it all up afterwards every time. It really felt like I had zero time in the day, because I just had such a depleted source of energy. You all saw as well that I struggled with some of my videos. Occasionally I posted in the community tab that I wasn't feeling well, wasn't sure if I was able to post anything that week. Luckily I'd had 1 or 2 videos that I'd pre-recorded anyway, so one of the worst weeks I had, I just edited a video for that week instead that I already recorded. But like, I had such bad brain fog when I was crashing at times. Sometimes crashing would happen mid-filming. Sometimes filming ended up taking up to like 2 to 3 hours, just because I was taking breaks or was losing my train of thought so much. And again, that's something that my ADHD meds was not helping either, when it usually does. My voice keeps going croaky or cracking randomly. The cough will still like jump me occasionally. So yeah, filming like longer videos is tiring, because the sitting up is exhausting, the talking's exhausting, and the breathing and talking makes it more likely that I'm going to start coughing. I had to do like a self-tape this weekend, and earlier I had to do a self-tape this weekend that's just gone that included singing, and I didn't have to do any of these things. I had to do them because I wanted to do them. Again, things that I was prioritising. The self-tapes included singing, but also I did a voice acting audition a few weeks ago as well. My voice just needs a lot more rest. And a lot more warming up than ever, and even then it can wear out and it can crack and it can just do weird things and lose control of like the note I'm singing, for example. So that like trying to do some of those things was really hard. Like the voice acting one, I went for 2 different roles, which I didn't get. It's fine. They had an absolutely ridiculous amount of people going for all of their roles, so I had a feeling I wouldn't get it, but I wanted to give it a go anyway. And there were some higher notes that I couldn't actually reach in one of my character voices, but they did extend the deadline by an extra day for me. I appreciate that they at least gave me an extra day to rest my voice, you know? But I basically decided that I would read both of those different characters through once. If the take was okay, I was just going to use those takes. That was really early still. I think that was week 2. And now I'm on week 4 or 5. So I was still really, really struggling back during that point. And then, yeah, this last weekend, really struggling with like controlling some of the notes, my voice breaking at times, struggling to breathe, a lot of coughing in different takes and during the warm-ups and stuff. So yeah, like I am basically still thinking of my recovery as like both physical rest but also like a vocal rest too. Viruses can really fuck up your vocal cords, and that's one thing that I think is absolutely wild to me about all the singers who are not protecting their voices and stuff. Like any performers whose voice is basically the main source of their performance, not protecting themselves against things like COVID or other viruses when they're like on tour and stuff. That's literally how you make fucking money, and you're not even protecting the one thing that makes you money. If capitalism doesn't make you protect yourself, I don't understand you. People are very confident in their bodies. Babes, you could be me from just one virus. And as well, like your vocal cords and stuff are really fragile. You're really not supposed to do a lot of shit to them. So I did start feeling better, started to try to do some more things. I did go to my mental health group, but towards the end of one session I started to feel like having basically a bit of a POTS episode, feeling a bit dizzy and weak. It was also a really muggy day, which usually has been a trigger for my POTS. So yeah, I was feeling like dizzy and weak towards the end. I had to kind of hang around outside for like an hour whilst I drank some peach tea and just got some like cooler air. Before I felt able to drive myself home, because it's like a half-hour drive. Then had to get my COVID vaccination that afternoon, which slay. I got my first ever "you're too young to belong here" confrontation in the queue. Don't worry, sir. I'll throw hands at anybody, bitch. I thought it was the vaccine, but honestly it could have just been I had overexerted myself on that day, because the next day I felt like shite and I felt like shit for a few days. Extra bad. I had to basically say to this drama workshop thing I was supposed to go to every week for 10 weeks that I was just going to like not come back. I literally went to the introductory session like during the week I got ill, and then never got to go back, because every time it got to sort of the evening, the idea of going, like leaving the house, doing all of that travel and walking, being there for 2 hours, and then having to come back home, which can take up to an hour sometimes depending on when you finish and when you get to the train station for the trains and stuff. And as well, like I didn't want to spread my germs, so yeah, I ended up just saying like I just feel too exhausted every time, like even if my symptoms have lessened or they've stopped, I just felt so exhausted that I just had to cancel. I am clearly just not well. I think my recovery from this is going to take a while, so I don't want to have to keep messaging you every week like, oh yeah, I'm not going to make it, I feel like shit. And we were like very nearly at the halfway point, so I was like, this will have been the third one I've missed. Next week is the halfway point. I don't think I'm going to feel any better next week, so see ya. And yeah, after my COVID vaccine, I just felt so exhausted all over again. Like I said, it could have been the exertion of energy from the previous day. Another time I tried to walk around this like very small and very accessible high street. It's basically made with elderly people in mind, so it's flat, very much made for pedestrians and disabled pedestrians, so better access for things like wheelchairs and mobility scooters and stuff like that. Lots more seating options, actually surprisingly better food options for me a lot of the times. And yeah, this is like a place that I could walk around pretty easily before I got this virus. Like occasionally I'd need to sit down, or we'd stop for some food, we'd plan in breaks in our walking around, but like I couldn't even do this small thing myself where I walked from where we were staying to the high street. The aim was to go to 2 shops. I did go to a couple of charity shops, which I probably shouldn't have done based on my energy levels, but I got some cheap frames, so and it's literally like a 2 to 5 minute walk maximum. I immediately felt weird, so I went to a cafe and got an iced coffee and sat outside for a while. I then did go to one of the shops I was planning to go to, and then as I was on my way to the next shop, I started feeling really like sick and unwell again. So I ended up texting my mum that I needed picking up and that I would be near where the public bathrooms were, because I needed to go to the bathroom. And like I just couldn't coordinate my body. Trying to pull up my shorts, wash my hands, put my coat on, pick up my bag, all that sort of stuff. It was so difficult because I just couldn't get my body to move properly, because I just felt really weak. Like my legs felt like jelly. They were like shaking. It was really, really strange. I haven't felt like that in a really long time. And like I just knew that if I tried to walk back, I would probably just collapse. And yeah, I was feeling like dizzy and faint again. I tested how well I felt in a place, like a location that I felt was safe. Like I said, the location was a lot more accessible than most places I have around me. I live in places that have hills literally fucking everywhere, and most roads and pavements are fucked. And they're further away from home. Because I'd walked into this town, my mum still had the car where we're staying, so she could drive it to come get me. But if I'd driven the car from where we live in the countryside to like the town near us here, she wouldn't be able to just come pick me up unless somebody else was home and their car was there. So I felt like it was a safe location to trial it alone. Like I said, they also have like better food options, so I could pick up a drink, pick up snacks if I needed to. She came to pick me up, even though it's literally like a 2 to 5 minute walk, because I just knew I couldn't go any further. It wasn't like a super hot day. There was quite a nice breeze, but it was definitely like a bright, sunnier summer day. Oh yeah, after all that, it was still sunny, so I decided that my way of resting was that I was going to just lay in the garden on the floor and listen to my audiobook and just sunbathe for a while. This is honestly one of my favourite activities generally for like recalibrating, rejuvenating, resting. Sunshine feels nice, especially when we don't really get any here. Me desperately trying to get that vitamin D. Obviously with sun cream on, put your sun cream on. Like, I could literally stay like that for hours. This has been my main sort of resting activity during this time, is not even just out in the sun, but like generally is listening to audiobooks. I got a couple of audiobooks made available from Libby that I've been waiting for fucking ages. Fourth Wing. I have so many rude opinions about that book. If you want to know more as a disabled person, I mean rude as in like negative, critical, not rude as in sexual, even though that would also be appropriate for the book. A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I finished off Husband Material, then started, but haven't been able to finish because of fucking Spotify's 15-hour thing, They Hate Each Other. And then there's one that I just took out, but like I haven't started it yet. Been doing a lot of just laying and listening to audiobooks, which has been really good. My baseline of how well I feel has really had a proper fucking kick in the teeth from this virus. I know, so shocking. And like, yeah, I'm just still struggling a lot. Yeah, I'm puffed of breath faster. I'm just so fucking tired. It has gotten a little bit easier to film videos. Only a little bit. My throat doesn't hurt anymore. It's not back to 100% normal. I also had to use nasal sprays quite a lot. Speaking of which, is this the right one? Oh, my back hurts, so I'm gonna lay down. I'm also just having a shitty flare-up of my lower back pain. This is what I think of that. However, slay to my gastro for paying attention and sending me for a fucking MRI. Yeah, like sitting like this aggravates my lower back, so that's why I've also been laying down a lot. Like I said, been using nasal sprays again a bit more because I just can't fucking breathe, but I've been using them a bit less. However, I can't breathe today, so the wheezing is better but not gone. I'm trying not to overbook myself still for the time being, as I do still have a very limited amount of energy versus like what I could achieve before having a virus. It's just like, no. Yeah, and especially on days where if I have to go out by myself, because like I said, no one can come get me. I'm trying to give myself like full days off as well from doing like literally anything. So all I do is lay around playing Stardew Valley, listening to my audiobooks or podcasts, watching YouTube videos, rewatching Yellow Jackets is something I've been doing recently as well. In bed, on the sofa, in the garden. I am generally just not as well as I was before the virus still, even though we're on week 4 or 5. And I don't think I will be either back to that baseline or better for a long time, if I ever am. The one thing I do know is that resting as much as possible in those like earlier days helps increase the likelihood of improvement down the line. I don't know whether I'll bother including those sources, but all of those sources are in my pacing video from like maybe a bit over a year ago now, but there are like sources linked to how like actually just fucking doing nothing, just fucking resting. So like if I want to have any hope to get back to that baseline at least, I need to rest. And it can be boring and isolating at times, but like this could just be my whole life, you know? I have quite a lot of friends with ME and other health issues that have caused them to live life like they have moderate to severe ME, and it's rough. I've talked about it a little bit here. I don't know if I have ME. I think it's very possible. I think maybe I'm more along the lines of like mild to moderate, and I've had periods of pretty bad chronic fatigue thanks to things like anemia from my Crohn's that went on for like a good few months. My life is already hard being ill and disabled and neurodivergent. Like, those things are not easy. Adding on top of that this lack of energy, which I already struggle with. I already struggle with the lack of energy. Decreasing my energy more really fucking sucks. That's why I keep telling people to wear a mask. And if you're ill and have to go somewhere, you know, like a doctor's appointment or something, wear a mask, because you're more likely to protect other people from your germs by wearing a mask than I am to protect myself from other people's germs from wearing a mask if I'm not ill. Like, your mask works better from your point of view as an ill person. Anyway, I got off track, went on a tangent about COVID, literally just from this silly virus I've picked up. I really had to prioritise what's important for me or to me. I just didn't even have the capacity to sit up for very long. And like when I finally get to sleep, because sometimes I'm not getting to sleep until early hours of the morning, I don't want to get up in the morning, so I'm sleeping later, which then pushes off a lot of my preferred meal times and medication times, having to medicate for allergies, because apparently when I'm ill I just become allergic to something, and then medicate more for pain and sleep, which can affect other things like my breathing when I'm vaping medical cannabis. I have so many friends now who have become really ill, stuck in bed, unable to do like literally anything. I do really mean anything, because of a random virus, whether it was COVID or not. Some people from anaphylaxis, and like there are some things that you really can't help. Like sometimes you will pick up a virus even though you do everything possible to take care of yourself, and so do your friends or whoever's around you. You might not know that you're allergic to medications or vaccines, but like there are a lot of things that are preventable, and a lot of the times it is viruses. People are just getting sick all the time for no reason, because they're just not doing like really basic precautions anymore. And like I'm honestly really not a very good masker. I don't really need to mask a lot because I'm at home most of the time. But when I go out, my main masking is in really busy crowded buildings, but even then not always, because sometimes my other disabilities are disabling. Basically, unfortunately, where I can't really wear the mask all the time. I wear it on public transport as much as possible, but again, as we get into like summer, sometimes things like my POTS, there are like personal pros and cons, but this is the thing, is that if more people were masking, this wouldn't have to be such a calculated decision for other people like me who are already very vulnerable. A lot of chronic illness and disability is actually quite preventable, and it's a lack of care. It's an arrogance that some people have, that it won't be them. You could be made disabled literally any day, anytime, anywhere. And like I know a lot of it is thanks to our governments and the media reporting irresponsibly, but there are still people sharing information about COVID. At least there is a new variant now out. Basically, the more and more variants we get, and as well bird flu has a new variant too that's out and about, and measles epidemic. Measles wipes your immune system, so anything you've built up a resistance to, gone bitch. But like the more and more variants we get, they become resistant to medications that were working for previous variants. They become resistant to vaccines. Vaccines don't fucking do anything the more variants there are. I mean, I know not many people are even able to get vaccines anymore. I had some trouble recently trying to get my vaccine, and that's just because they didn't fucking put my new medication on there, and I was still already on 2 immunosuppressive medications, and that wouldn't have qualified me as immunocompromised enough to continue vaccines. A lot of people's arguments of like herd immunity with measles, gone. Arguments of I'm vaccinated. Really, we all need regular vaccinations, much like flu. People get flu jabs every year because flu is something that continues to come around. That's something that kills really vulnerable people quite a bit every year. That's why we have vaccines for the flu, but we get them yearly. Whereas like COVID, I don't know many people who have had a yearly vaccination of COVID since maybe 2022. I have had them at least 2 to 3 times a year, sometimes more than that, since the pandemic started. This last jab was my 8th or 9th vaccine, because like I'm gonna take that. If I qualify, I'm taking that. The more of the healthy people who aren't getting vaccinated, aren't protecting themselves or protecting each other, the more we're going to have and see a crisis with things like disability benefits, which, if you hadn't noticed, in the UK are under attack again. It'll be harder to get benefits when you're long-term sick. We already seem to have like skeleton staff for a lot of NHS services, and that's because most of them have caught COVID so many times that they are disabled, or the like absolute horror they've had to go through. They're so burnt out because they don't have enough staff. You know, it's just a chain reaction. If you don't protect yourself and your community, it's just going to keep getting worse. And this is just a small example of how dramatic the impacts can be in a short period of time to somebody who's already used to being sick and doesn't have a full-time job to be going to, does not have children or dependents of any form. I also have the luxury to rest because I'm disabled and am a freelancer and all that sort of thing. People who are working full-time don't have that luxury. People who are living in extreme poverty, etc., etc. Like, lots of people do not have the ability to do what they need to do to try and take care of and preserve their health. So what you need to be doing is helping with like the whole clean air issue. We probably wouldn't have to mask as much if we had air filtering systems in buildings, or even if more people just had portable ones that they either kept at work, kept in the car, whatever, you know, took with them places. That would probably be a great benefit. Like, that, I feel like that's been one of the things that's really helped me in times when I am not able to mask. Like at my markets, I literally have that thing blowing in my face the whole time I'm there, even though it's fucking cold. But I'm pretty sure that's one of the main reasons why I've not picked up half as many things. I've said it before, I'll say it again, even though I'm not a perfect masker, I have not been anywhere near as ill as often as pre-pandemic when I supposedly had a healthy and functioning immune system that wasn't suppressed. Since being on immunosuppressive medications, I have been more careful generally. And I think just generally being more careful with things like how clean your hands are, what you've been touching in public, not touching your face when you're touching other like things in public, hand sanitizer, hand washing. I know that's not really the most important thing for COVID, but it is for other viruses. You can use things like mouthwash and certain nasal sprays to help lower the viral load that's in your body before you actually get sick. So I think there are some guidelines, like the nasal spray, I think was every 4 to 6 hours if you're like out and about a lot. I usually tend to use it at least before and after I've been somewhere. Same with a mouthwash, gargling some mouthwash for a bit before and or after going places. Sometimes I take some with me so I can gargle between if I have to go to different places, or if it's a really long day. Having some better masks that you can also just keep for longer, take care of. A lot of the advice says that basically if you isolate a mask in a brown paper bag, just like a paper bag, I can't remember the exact amount of time, like 2 to 3 days I think, and then it's usable again. And that helps preserve, you know, lessens the amount of masks that you're using. You're not paying for as many, probably better for the environment as well in the long run. And really, yeah, they are fine and functioning for longer than just the one use. But I think the one use as well is usually more so for healthcare workers, people who work with sick people. There are some simple, small things you can be doing, picking up some tests so that you can test to make sure if you're, like I said, they're not very accurate, but it's still better to have some tests to hand to make sure, because if it does show positive for COVID, then you've got fucking COVID, man. There are some better tests that they are using in different parts of Europe and in Asia that also test for other things like the flu and stuff. My gran got really ill semi-recently with COVID, and she also had the flu at the same time. She ended up in A&E overnight. So that as well, even though it is highly unlikely to pick up 2 viruses at once, it is still possible, and all of these can develop into worse symptoms, worse health conditions, and can disrupt other healing that might be going on. So if you've got a new tattoo or a piercing, or if you've just had a surgery, and they are not really giving out antivirals or anything anymore. Like I said, my gran had COVID. My mum was chasing 111 for like the COVID antiviral medication for like 5 days. And she literally had to be admitted into A&E overnight at one point because she was so ill. And she's also like me, we're both on the clinically vulnerable list of being immunocompromised. And people just don't know what to do anymore for vulnerable people catching COVID. They just have no fucking clue. You're better off not fucking getting anything, even mild things. The video I made about 2 years ago when I caught COVID in like June of 2022. Whilst the experience of COVID was mild, I do think that I have had a lingering effect on my breathing since then. I've only just had a fucking breathing test for that too, which has showed that I am struggling to convert the oxygen in the air into my bloodstream, even though I breathe in more than the average human person. But I'm taking in bigger breaths and still not getting the average amount of oxygen into my bloodstream, which could be a bunch of fucked up shit, but we don't know what. I'm now waiting for a lung CT. Not urgent, apparently, but here we go. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. I think sometimes it can be difficult to find good community sources and resources around COVID impact. So regardless of where you are in the world, just let me know whereabouts you are in the world and what resources you have near you, or if you know of other resources for elsewhere to do with like COVID and like generally viral illness sort of prevention. Leave your resources in the comments. I will also try and share a few that I know of, both reporting information as well as providing masks and stuff. You know, things like that all be amazing, please and thank you. Obviously you don't have to, but I just think it would be really useful as like a place to sort of collate some of that information. Can you search comments for particular words? That would be very interesting if you could search like America and get all the sources for America or whatever. But yeah, I really appreciate people sharing their resources. I'm tired and I'm struggling to breathe, catch my breath. Wear a mask. Try to do some of these other things as well to try and mitigate the possibility of you catching any virus, not just COVID. Try to look after other people around you in your community, whether you know them or not. We are living in a dystopian world. Anyway, yeah, don't forget to support this channel. This is probably a video that's going to flop because nobody likes hearing about this shit. But I literally don't have the energy to talk about anything else. And it's really important that people will fucking do something. I'm just gonna go. I'll see you next week. Bye.